Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this last Q&A clinic for Product Management Service, Product User Interface. I'm Caterina Scarpati from PMS Change Management team. And today I have here with me Marcos Fernandez Gomez, who is PMS Product Owner at EMA. And he will respond to any of your questions concerning the Product Management Service user interface use. There's some housekeeping before we start. Please note that this session is being recorded and it will be made available on the EMA YouTube channel and event webpage. Just to let you know, we are working already on the recordings from the past Q&A clinics. They will be published soon. Hopefully by next week, we will have all videos published on YouTube. In order to ask your questions, you can use the interaction tool Slido. And here are the details for you to connect. So you can simply join at slido.com, inserting this code PMSQA4, or you can just scan the QR code that you find here in the slide. Through Slido, you can type and send your question, or just upvote the existing questions that you agree with and you would like us to respond sooner. And because we will respond in questions in order of upvotes. So I give the floor to Marcos, who has a slide to show you concerning a question that was raised in another Q&A clinic. Thank you.
Yeah, just very quick, I want to share my screen because I would like to give you a bit of information. I think I'm showing now. Of a question that we received during the last Q&A session that we had regarding the SVG flag 0 in SMS and what should the applicants do in XCMPD. So I have asked the Pedro, who is the product owner of SMS, and this is the summary. Please make sure that we are going to provide additional information during the SMS webinar. So you will have more information, but anyway, you have here the different, actions that you should do when you have these substances with the SVG flag 0. First of all, and in principle, those substances shouldn't be used. But then depending on what's in the comment field on the SMS export, you should do different actions. So if in the comment field there is something like duplicate of, that means that this substance has a one-to-one match to a substance that should be used because we know the duplicate. So what you should do is you should update your product with the replacement substance. This is something that you have to do by October. We still need to define the date by when this should be done, but this is a change that you have to do in XCMPD. If after October this action has not been performed, then we will perform a data fix to update the product on your behalf, and then we will notify all these substances. If in the comment field we have something like invalid, that means that the substance is not valid, but we don't have a one-to-one replacement. So if you know the exact substance that should be used, then you can proceed with the replacement. Otherwise, we will address those substances during 2025. But for the moment, there is nothing required for you during this year. The same would happen with the unspecified substances. In general, you shouldn't use those substances, but we don't have a replacement yet. Those substances are only used for pharmacovigilance purposes. So these cases will also be addressed during 2025. So for the moment, there is no action required for you. So in summary, only if you have this duplicate of, and you have the replacement substance there, you need to update your products in XCMPD by October 2024, so this October. But anyway, we will provide additional information again during the SMS webinar that we will host. I hope with this information it's fine for you, and this will be also included in the recording, etc. So you can also have a look at this information. And with that, which is a question that we had from the last Q&A session, I think we can continue with the questions that we are receiving today.
Okay. Yes, we have already some questions. So let's start here. Could you please clarify what shall MAH do with SVG mapping in SMS?
Because this question and the next one are, I think, no, this is for today. Sorry. Yeah, but I think we can skip this one because it's what I have just explained.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so I can mark them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start from here. When can we expect missing data in PMS UI for the caps?
Well, the data that you have for caps, that we have in PMS for caps, in principle, everything is in the product UI. You might be missing data if we have not been able to do the match and merge. So data that we have from XCVMPD, that should be included in this product, in the product UI. We are working on solving this bug. So in principle, during Q3, all this information that is coming from XCVMPD for centrally authorized products will appear in the product UI. But data coming from SIAMED is already there. So if you are missing some data and you don't see the ED code, that means that the match and merge has not been done, and therefore the data that is coming from XCVMPD is missing. And it will come during Q3.
Thank you. How to align the data related to active substance and strength as per IDMP harmonization, but XCVMPD has different approach for validating the data as per SMPC. Shall we join harmonization as per M3 and SMPC, but SMPC is not aligned?
Yeah, so we have already discussed this point. For the moment, the SMPC is the document that is ruling the process, and therefore you need to follow what you have in the SMPC. So if there is a misalignment between the SMPC and module 3, you need to follow what you have in the SMPC, because this is the data that we will receive in XCVMPD, is the one that we will validate, and that's the data that we will have in PMS. In the future, for example, we can have the reference substance that maybe is the one that you have in module 3, and this will be included as part of the enrichment together with other information like storage conditions and devices and all these things. But for the moment, the SMPC is the document that is, let's say, ruling the process. So you need to follow the SMPC.
Thank you. It was not clarified what to do for excipients with SVG flag equals 0. What is the advice for the excipients, please?
So from my understanding, again, is what I explained in the slide. I would assume that we are talking about substances. So if there is a duplicate in this export that you have from SMS, if the SVG flag 0 is equal 0, and then you have in the comment section, you have the duplicate of, you need to change the substance to the one that appears as a duplicate of. If you have then invalid or something different, then you need to wait. It's what I have explained in this slide. Anyway, again, we will have a webinar on SMS where this will be explained. So if you have additional questions, you can raise the comments there.
Okay, and I guess this one was responded as well, no?
Yeah, because
here
again, will substances be flagged as 1 or 0? I have no idea. This is SMS project, and this has to be answered by Pedro.
Yes, so you can join the Sport Status Update webinar on 10th of July. From 10 to 12:30, you can find the broadcast on EMA website. Next, will there be an option to extract complete data from PMS for all the products, like the extract option we have in XCVMPD?
So I think this question came also yesterday during the system demo. And the answer is that we have not implemented an export such as the one you have in XCVMPD, where you can have an Excel with all the data that is in XCVMPD, so the 50 fields that we have in XCVMPD. What we have done in PMS is we have built different reports where you can extract different information for your product. So you have a report for the full list of products with, for example, all the manufacturers, with all the ingredients, with all the pack sizes, with data regarding the ATC code. These are in different reports. We have not built, for the moment, the report where you can download all the information that is related to your product. And I think unless we have a really good use case, we are not gonna create a report to export all the information in PMS because the amount of data is huge. And I think we would end up with an Excel or a report where, you know, it is not really useful or handy. So unless there is any good reason, that would not be the case. We can improve the reports that we have. We can create new ones based on the input that we receive from the SMEs or the different users. But I'm not sure we will create a report with all the information for the product.
Okay, thank you. For download option, we do not have for all sections in PMS UI. Will it be available for indications in future or limited only to manufacturers, ingredients, and packaged medicinal products section?
So again, we've been building export on the sections where we think it makes more sense as the minimum viable product. So we were building the pages and we released them with some exports, and now we have these dynamic reports. It is true that some sections we don't have this option to export like indication. Maybe if this is a requirement in the future, we can discuss if we can have an export on indications. But it's feasible. We just need to prioritize this and develop one report, for example, to export the indication. That is, it's feasible. But again, we need to prioritize it. And if this is a requirement that we have, we can investigate.
Thank you. These three options in PMS UI homepage navigating to the same page. So 1, product management service, 2, products of my organization, and 3, own products. Will there be a difference in the future on these hyperlinks on homepage for navigations?
No, I think it's just different ways to get to the same page. The thing is, so I can understand what you mean. I think we just have these 3 ways because depending on where you are in the PLM system, in the PLM portal, some of them will be hidden. So, for example, let me share my screen 1 second so I can explain it. I hope you can see my screen. So, for example, here it is true that we have these products of my organization and own products. But if I navigate here to products of my organization, then the own products are missing. If you're navigating in the EPI list, you don't have this own product button, but you still have this product of my organization. So you can navigate directly here. You don't have to come back to the main page or the home page. You can navigate here. So this is why we have these different ways to access the same data, or the table where you have all your products here. This is why we have this setup, and in principle, we will not change the way it has been built for the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, going back. Okay, next. The timeout window doesn't pop up if you are not using PMS UI database continuously. Instead, we can click on the other attributes and see them just the data doesn't get loaded. Are there any plans to include timeout window in PMS UI?
Yes, there is a plan to include a timeout window. But to be honest, I don't remember the status of this user story that we have. But for sure, we have a really big timeout in principle, so there shouldn't be any issue. But we can provide additional information here because we have a plan to have a window saying that, yeah, the timeout has been reached, then you need to log in again, etc. So I can provide more information later.
Okay. Oops. Okay, thank you. All right. How do you suggest that MAHs in practice should do data cleansing for SVG flags if it is not possible to extract information as a complete data set?
Well, this has nothing to do with PMS. This has to do with SMS and XEVMPD. Then it is true that the data that we have in XEVMPD is consumed or is pushed to PMS, but there is nothing to do with reports from PMS. You can extract your information in XEVMPD. You can check which products are using substances with an different SVG flag, and you can perform your update. So in principle, unless I am missing something, and I will check, this is an exercise that you have to do between SMS and XEVMPD.
Okay, thank you. Some dates are not correct. For example, date of international birth date in PY is the procedure start date. Manufacturing start date is the submission date. Will the migration rule be adopted?
So this data is coming from SIAME. So for example, if the manufacturing start date is wrong, you need to raise a ticket because then in principle the date is incorrect in SIAME, and we would need to investigate why and if we need to update it or not. So you need to raise a ticket. Then for the international birth date, this data is also coming from SIAME, and I think we did the mapping this way, but we have an international birth date as well. So again, data discrepancies like this, you need to raise a ticket because then we would need to investigate what is happening, what information do we have in SIAME, if it's correct or not. And if we see that there is a mistake, then we would correct the data in SIAME.
Okay, thank you. The data migrated from SAMET was capturing the active substance correctly aligned with IDMP. XEVMPD migration led to active substance being overwritten, reflecting the reference substance. Will be the active substance realigned in PMS?
I think so. I think we already explained this information. What we are doing right now is showing the data that we have in XEVMPD for the ingredients, so active substance and excipients for caps. So that's the data that we will show. In the future, as we will need to request the reference substance also for non-caps, etc., we will investigate what are we going to do with these reference substances that we have in SIAME. So it might be possible that we will realign this, but so far we are showing the data that we have in XEVMPD. So that's the data that we have and the data that you will see.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any plan for view-only industry user access once edit function in PMS will be available? As currently, per the guidance document, all users seem to have view and edit function in the future.
Yes, so right now there is only view access, but we have different user roles in IAM. So we have the normal industry role and the qualified industry role. both of them will have access to edit, but based on the role, for example, the normal industry user will not be able to see or edit confidential manufacturers, while the qualified industry role will be able to view, edit, etc., all the manufacturers. We just need to have the edit process in place, and then these users will be able to access and edit the data that is in the product UI and the data that they are able to see. So again, the normal user won't be able to edit confidential manufacturers because they are not able to see this data.
Okay, thank you. It was recommended to check the third acknowledgement to align with internal system data. However, we have noticed that in the third indication, preventive and prophylaxis were removed, and it is recommended not to remove those indications to support pharmaceutical companies, I imagine.
Yeah, so I guess it's to support pharmacovigilance. In principle, if this has been removed from your product in XCMPD by the validation team, is maybe because it is not stated in the SMPC that the prophylaxis or I don't know which was the other one. Preventive or prophylaxis, because otherwise the validation team would have kept this indication. If you don't agree with the validation that has been performed, then you can raise a ticket saying, hey, for those EV codes or for this EV code, you have validated the EV code and you have removed this indication, but in the SMPC you have this, so please include this indication again. And if it's in the SMPC, the validation team will have to create this indication or include this indication again, and it will appear in PMS and in the product UI.
Okay, we have an export to XML option in PMS, which downloads all the data of the product into an XML format, just like XCVMPD acknowledgements. Do we have any Excel macro file to further process and simplify these XML files for easy viewing?
No. So what you are downloading when you click on export to XML is let's say the fire message that we have in the PMS API. It's just there as we have other downloads in Excel. For example, it was a request, the requirement that we received, that the user wanted to being able to download the XML file. So this is there just to be used in case someone wants to use the XML. But there is no macro to import this information in Excel. And for the moment, there is no priority to create such a macro.
Yeah, thank you. What is the estimated timeline for providing a resolution to tickets raised about PLM data errors after XCVMPD data migration? We have tickets in progress for over 2 months with multiple reminders and no response.
So in principle, the SLAs that we have for the tickets is again 22 days, I think, for questions, 5 days for issues, etc. I will check because I'm not aware that we can have these tickets for 2 months. That's too much, and that shouldn't be the case. So I will check the tickets. I will check maybe if they are assigned to the PLM or PMS team, because otherwise they might be lost if they are maybe with the SIAMET team or something. I will check if we have any tickets like this, and I will make sure that they receive a reply, because this shouldn't be the case.
Thank you. Is there any plan to have the equivalent of a product export currently available in XCVMPD within the PY?
I'm not sure if I know what the product export is. So I would need to investigate that, because right now I'm not sure what the product export is. But what I've said, in the product UI, you have the capability to export in Excel different sections of the product. You have the capability to export in an XML, which is the information that we have in the PMS API. And you have the possibility to export data based on the dynamic reports that we have. That is what in principle we have, and we will be improving these capabilities. I will check again what this product export is and reply to this.
Okay. So last question. Some dates need corrections in POI. Can the dates be corrected in PMS without being overwritten by XCVMPD dates? How to manage if it cannot be corrected via XCVMPD?
Yeah. So again, what you see now on the product UI is data for caps. So we can have dates coming from SciAmed or dates coming from XCVMPD. You have this information in chapter 7. In the table that you have at the end, you have where the different fields are coming from, either from SciAmed or XCVMPD. If the date is coming from SciAmed, then you need to raise a ticket because the issue is in SciAmed. If the date is coming from XCVMPD, you can then update this date in XCVMPD, and it will be updated in the product UI and in PMS. So here I would say that if the issue, if the data cannot be corrected in XCVMPD, it's because it's a SciAmed field, and then you need to raise a ticket because the issue is there.
Okay, thank you. So before we get to the last question, last two questions, if you want, we have a quick survey for you, just to let us know how it went and how useful was this session, still in Slido. Okay, last question. What is the process with the manufacturer names changes? I noticed that the manufacturer in POI is the name of the manufacturer prior name change. What should be recorded?
So what we have in what you can see in the product UI is the data coming from OMS in those cases. What we have is a link between the manufacturers in SciAmed and the organizations in OMS. So what you see is actually what we have in OMS. If there has been a change on the name, this should be reflected in OMS, and therefore the new name will appear in the product UI. So it's not an issue on how the name is written, it's how the name is displayed in OMS. And if there is any issue with those names, then you need to ask OMS to make the update on this record, because this is what we are showing there.
Okay, thank you. We have a last one. Could you add the verbal answers to a Q&A document, please? So we are preparing, as we had anticipated in our Q&A clinics, an FAQ document. So it will not include exactly all questions from the clinics, but we are selecting the most frequently asked ones, both from these clinics and from the training that we had at the beginning of the month. But of course, as we said, if you are you would like to review the response made to a specific question in a Q&A clinic, you will have the recordings available. Thank you. Next, the submission has been approved. It looks like the manufacturer is the one of the initial submission, not the same of the variation submitted later.
That's the thing. You need to check in OMS what is the name of the manufacturer. The manufacturer is the one. You need to raise a ticket. We need, if it has been approved, then the new manufacturer should have been included in SciAmed, and we should have taken it. If it's not appearing, raise a ticket, and we will check if it has been included in SciAmed. Because as soon as the variation is approved, the SciAmed colleagues are including this information in SciAmed, and it should appear in PMS. So yes, please raise a ticket if it's not appearing.
Okay, so we can go to a really last question. Is there a mapping document with mapping to the source, XVMPD or SciAmed?
Yes, in chapter 7 of the UIG, at the end of the document, there is a big table. And for each of the fields, you have where the data is coming from. So it's either SciAmed or XVMPD. And there is an error. We have already said we need to update the document. The package description for CAPS is coming from SciAmed, not from XVMPD. That is the only thing that we need to correct.
Okay, so that was the last question. You responded to all, Marcos. Thank you very much. And yeah, as we said, the recording will be published. Thank you.